Have you ever felt inflamed and exhausted at the same time? Your skin feels oily, your body feels heavy, your patience feels shorter, and somehow you feel tired and yet overstimulated. Perhaps you struggle with inflamed acne, stronger body odor, bad breath, bloating, sticky bowel movement, or the feeling that you are constantly running hot from within. Emotionally, you may feel more impatient, reactive, or easily overwhelmed, almost as though your entire system has become congested, both physically and mentally. In traditional Chinese medicine, this pattern has a name, and it's called damp heat constitution. Healing is like tending a garden, and in every video, we water the roots. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Amy, and for today's video, we're continuing with our body constitution series with damp heat. If Phlegm-Damp is like a quiet swamp, then damp heat is like a tropical rainforest, dense, humid, hot. Moisture hangs heavily in the air, but the heat has nowhere to escape. The environment becomes irritated, congested, and overgrown. That is the image I want you to have throughout this video. What does damp heat actually mean? This constitution is much more than just acne, having eaten a lot of fried food. These may appear alongside this pattern, but they are not the pattern itself. In traditional Chinese medicine, dampness and heat describe two very different qualities. Dampness is heavy, sticky, slow. It causes accumulation and makes movement more difficult. Heat is active, irritating, and inflammatory. It creates redness, overstimulation, swelling, and restlessness. When dampness and heat combine, the body becomes both congested and overheated. This is not simply too much heat or too much dampness. It is humidity being trapped while the temperature continues to rise. This is where many people become confused. Phlegm-Damp, damp heat, and Yin Deficiency. These may all involve discomfort, fatigue, or sensations of heat, but they describe very different internal landscapes. Phlegm-Damp is the swamp. There is too much accumulation, but not necessarily prominent heat. The body tends to feel heavy, sluggish, swollen, or mentally foggy. The person may have a thick, greasy tongue coating, but it is often pale or white rather than yellow. The central problem is accumulation and poor transformation. Damp heat is the rainforest. There is still heaviness and accumulation, but now heat has joined the picture. The person may feel tired, heavy, but also oily, inflamed, irritable, restless, or internally hot. Secretions may become stronger in color, odor, or stickiness. The central problem is accumulation combined with heat. Yin Deficiency is the desert. This is not a problem of too much moisture. It is the problem of not having enough cooling and nourishing fluids. The person may feel dry, thirsty, flushed, restless, or warmer at night. They may experience night sweating, dryness, or difficulties falling asleep at night. The central problem is depletion. So the simplest way to remember the difference is this. Phlegm-Damp has too much accumulation. Damp heat has accumulation plus heat. Yin Deficiency has too little cooling nourishment. These patterns may appear similar from a distance, but the direction of support is completely different. What can damp heat look like? Well, this pattern for many people makes its clearest appearance on our skin. People may notice oily skin or scalp, enlarged pores, deep cystic acne, or recurring skin flare-ups. Damp heat often appears more redder, more swollen, more irritated than simple congestion alone. Some people notice stronger body odor. stickier secretion, both from the skin and from our digestion, bad breath, or a persistent feeling of internal stuffiness. These symptoms do not confirm damp heat by themselves, but when several appear together, they may begin revealing a wider pattern. The digestive system often tells a similar story. Some people experience bloating, nausea, heaviness after meals, acid reflux, sticky bowel movements, constipation, or a bitter taste in the mouth. In TCM, we also examine the tongue. A swollen tongue with thick, greasy yellow coating may be one clue that leads the practitioner to consider damp heat. The yellow color suggests heat. The thick, greasy coating suggests dampness. But the tongue is never interpreted alone. We consider the person's symptoms, history, tendencies, pulse, and overall presentation. A pattern is formed by the whole picture, not by one isolated sign. Now, modern life can create a very favorable environment for damp heat. Many people sleep too little. They live under constant stress. They rely heavily on sugar, caffeine, processed food, alcohol, or takeaways. They rarely recover properly, and they continue pushing long after the body has begun asking for rest. Over time, the body becomes less efficient at transforming food and fluids. Thus, dampness accumulates. Meanwhile, stress, overstimulation, alcohol, poor sleep, and certain foods continue to add heat. Eventually, the person becomes both depleted in energy and overloaded internally. And this is why a flare-up may appear to happen overnight. After several nights of poor sleep, a stressful week, more alcohol than usual, or months of pushing through exhaustion, the skin starts showing us the signs by becoming more red, more painful, and definitely very angry. But balance may have not begun overnight. The visible flare may have simply be the moment the internal buildup finally reached the surface. One of the most recognizable features of damp heat is the overstimulation cycle. When the body feels heavy, sluggish, or mentally stuck, many people instinctively reach for more stimulation. Another coffee, something sweet, something spicy, more scrolling, working until later, or working later. For a short time, stimulation creates movement. The person feels alert and temporarily less stuck. But stimulation may also add more heat to a system that is already overheated. The result is a repeating cycle. The body feels heavy, so the person stimulates it. The stimulation creates more heat. The system becomes more inflamed and exhausted. The person needs even more stimulation just to keep functioning. The answer is not always more motivation. Sometimes the body needs less stimulation and more regulation. Now, the cold drink paradox. Many people with damp heat naturally crave something cold. Things like your smoothie, ice cream, lattes, iced Americanos, or anything that is immediately cooling. That makes sense because when you're hot, you want relief. But traditional Chinese medicine distinguishes between temporary cooling and long-term regulation. Something icy may feel refreshing for a moment, but excessive cold intake may make it even more difficult for the digestive system, our spleen, to transform food and fluids efficiently. In TCM theory, this contributes to more dampness accumulation over time. So when you drink something cold, the heat feels temporarily relieved, while the environment that allows the heat to be trapped remains unchanged. The goal is to not attack heat with another extreme. The goal is to reduce the heat while also improving the body's ability to manage the dampness. Now let's talk about the emotional presentation. Damp heat affects how someone feels. Damp heat tends to be more reactive. So they may seem impatient, irritable, restless, overwhelmed, or unable to settle. The body feels tired, but the mind remains overstimulated. And because many people continue working, exercising, caring for others, and meeting deadlines, the pattern remains hidden for a very long time. From the outside, they appear highly functional, but internally, they may feel that everything is becoming too much. We have become so accustomed to poor sleep, constant stress, digestive discomfort, and chronic overstimulation that many people assume that this is what adulthood is supposed to be like, until the body becomes too loud to ignore. Damp heat is particularly relevant in certain women's health presentation. In TCM, it may be considered when symptoms include inflamed acne, certain PCOS presentations, persistent yellow discharge, recurrent irritation, or inflammatory pelvic and menstrual symptoms. But this does not mean that every woman with PCOS, acne, or irregular vaginal issues has damp heat. Traditional Chinese medicine does not treat labels alone. We treat patterns. Two women may have the same diagnosis, but two very different internal environments. One may have damp heat, one may have Phlegm-Damp, or she could have liver tree stagnation, blood stasis, kidney deficiency. The diagnosis tells us what they have in common. The pattern tells us how they are different. So how do we begin changing the environment? Movement can be helpful because stagnation allows the heat and dampness to linger. Therefore, moderate cardio, light strength training may support circulation and fluid metabolism. But balance matters. If someone is already exhausted, sleep-deprived, living on caffeine, and constantly forcing themselves through fatigue, then maybe their relentless high-intensity exercise may become another source of stress and heat. The goal is not to punish the body. The goal is to help the rainforest breathe. Exercise should help the body feel more regulated, not completely depleted. Supporting damp heat generally means supporting both sides of the pattern. We want to reduce unnecessary heat, but we also want to remove the dampness by improving its ability to transform food and fluids. In practical terms, this may mean getting more consistent sleep, reducing cycles of overstimulation and exhaustion, eating lighter, less greasy or heavy meals, reducing excessive sugar and alcohol, moving regularly, and giving the body enough recovery to regulate itself. See how none of these recommendations are dramatic? That is the point. Traditional Chinese medicine isn't about doing more. Very often, it is about removing the thing that is repeatedly disturbing the environment. So let's hop onto food principles. Traditionally, foods such as mung bean, buttermelon, watermelon, wintermelon, honey melon. Notice how I'm mentioning all the melons, cucumber, quake seeds, and celery, just to name a few, may be used in appropriate damp heat patterns. However, food therapy must still match the individual. Someone who is naturally cold, weak, prone to loose stools, may not respond well to large amounts of cooling foods. Many people with damp heat may also benefit from reducing fried foods, oily foods, greasy meals, sugar, alcohol, and very spicy food. Not because these foods are bad, but because they continue to feed the environment that we are trying to change. Traditional Chinese medicine is never about labeling what food is good and what food is bad. It is about the environment that your habits repeatedly create. Let us bring these three landscapes together one last time. Phlegm-Damp is the swamp, heavy, slow, foggy. The main problem is accumulation. Damp heat is the rainforest, heavy, humid, inflamed. The main problem is accumulation combined with heat. Yin Deficiency is the desert, dry, restless, and depleted. The main problem is insufficient cooling nourishment. Similar symptoms may come from very different internal landscapes, and once you begin recognizing the difference, your body starts making much more sense. Before we finish, I'd like to leave you with 2 acupressure points that you can start pressing today to help with improving your damp heat condition. The first one is Yin Deficiency. It is located on the inner side of your leg and right below the knee. The point is traditionally used to support fluid metabolism and to help the body manage damp accumulation. The second one is 曲池. It is located near the outer end of the elbow crease. This point is commonly selected for heat patterns, particularly if there's redness, irritation, or skin inflammation. Massage each point for 1 to 2 minutes on both sides, and remember, consistency matters more than intensity. So my darling, damp heat is what happens when heaviness and heat begin occupying the same internal landscape. The body feels congested but also inflamed, tired but overstimulated, heavy but unable to settle. Healing is like tending a garden. We do not punish a rainforest for being overgrown. We improve the conditions around it. We create movement, allow heat to settle, reduce what continually feeds the congestion, and gradually the ecosystem begins breathing again. The body stops feeling like the enemy and starts becoming something that we can understand. If this video helped you understand damp heat and possibly why the inflammation on your skin or anywhere on your body doesn't seem to be leaving, then maybe you want to continue this body constitution series with me, because every constitution tells a different story. And the more clearly you understand the landscapes, the more clearly you can understand what your body is asking for. Thank you so much for spending this time with me and for all the comments, messages, emails, and personal stories that you share with me on this channel. It is always such a delight to read. And that's it, my lovelies. I wish you all good health, and good health is the ultimate fortune and the only investment with endless return. And when do we start investing? Right now.